it was one of the worst promotions we've seen by two fighters. It was crickets.
Welcome back to the Bohnfire podcast, where we talk about the UFC and mixed martial arts with those closest to the fight game. I am your host, longtime MMA reporter and MMA Junkie senior reporter, Mike Bohn. Hope everyone out there is doing well. As promised, a second show for this week. Appreciate all the overwhelmingly positive feedback about my chat with Chael Sonnen earlier this week. We went through the hot takes. We talked about all the biggest topics in the sport right now, and I really enjoyed that chat and enjoyed all the positive responses you guys gave. It really mean a lot. Feels like we're doing something right here. If you haven't checked that episode, check it out on the feed, audio or video. It was a great one. But today we are going to kind of dig a little more into the fight side of things, and we are going to rank the next 12 UFC headliners. Yes, only 11 set. I kind of fudged it a little bit and used Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane and Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje at the White House as candidates here, because those are both headline-worthy fights and would ordinarily be main events on any other card. So that brings us up to a dozen, starting from this weekend on Saturday, UFC Fight Night 272, Renato Moicano versus Chris Duncan, all the way to June 20th. With the headliner there, the flyweights, Manel Kape versus Kyoji Horiguchi at the Meta Apex, as we all expected for that rematch, of course. But we are going to rank these fights from, I guess, least interesting to most interesting. And joining me to do so will be UFC analyst Alan Jouban, who will be working the desk this weekend for UFC Fight Night 272, also known as UFC Vegas 115. And we're going to get Alan's thoughts on all these fights, why he thinks they're the least interesting to the most interesting, get into some stuff about each bout, and then at the tail end, going to talk a little bit about what's next for the big stars in the UFC. So a packed show today, a long chat with Alan, but really appreciate his insights on the technical side of things, on the storyline side of things. I thought we covered a lot of ground here. So enjoy, see the rankings. Let us know how you think our lists shaked out, whether you think there was a different order in mind, all that stuff. Appreciate it all. Appreciate all the conversation that we can have. I try to respond to all the comments. So that does it for the intro. I've rambled on long enough here. A second show of the Bohnfire coming to you this week. It is right on the other side of the break with Alan Jouban. We are back here on the Bohnfire podcast with UFC analyst, former welterweight, Alan Jouban. Alan, welcome back, man. How are you?
Thank you, brother. It's been a minute. You've been getting all the big names, leaving me on the sideline for a while.
No, I was just waiting for the right time. Wanted to get something that we could dig a little deeper into. And I know you've got a very good mind, and you work some of these Apex cards and things like this. So this felt more kind of on point for your selection here.
Yeah, no, I'm playing, brother. I appreciate it. Good to be on again.
Yeah, thank you, man. Well, so we're, as I said off the top, going to go through these next main events. Rare time, Alan, where we have 3 months of headliners set up. I felt like for a few years there, especially coming out of COVID, it was like, it was just a different time, in terms of when fights would be booked. But UFC got this summer schedule done. We have everything up until June 20th here right now.
I love it. I mean, especially people like me that are, we want to know our schedule. All the analysts and people that work, they're trying to get their schedule sorted out. And then I like the UFC. I don't know if you remember the last time they did a breaking news. Normally Dana White gets his phone. He's sitting in the war room and he's doing it on social media. The last time they had to change things up. Remember they brought Bisping and Fitz in. And so I kind of like that as well. It gives a little more color to everything. Doesn't put the entire workload on Dana White. So I'm kind of hoping they continue with that moving forward and keep releasing a lot of stuff as soon as they get it locked in.
Yeah, agreed. I thought it was great to have Dana to have someone to bounce off a little bit in that moment, and obviously those guys know the game very well. So yeah, I just think him having someone to play off, ask some questions, some follow-ups, it gives it a little more spirit. So absolutely agree, they should keep doing that. And yeah, I mean, I kind of cheated a little bit of this. I said, gave you a dozen fights. I said let's rank all these main events. One of them is not a main event. I gave you both fights for the White House, both title fights, because we'll call it a double headliner. I mean,
it really is.
Any other circumstances, those guys are headlining their own shows. Obviously, speaking of Ilia Topuria and Alex Pereira. So
yeah, no, I agree, man. And that one was worth putting two fights on there.
Yeah, was this a challenging exercise at all? What part of the list was toughest for you? Was it the bottom or the top?
Man, I breezed through it.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, you really for me, you look at a list like this, and I started from the top, the number one, right? Because when you look at a number of fights, you have to go, what gets my blood boiling the most, right? What gets my blood pumping, rather? And you see it, and then you kind of go down the list and down the list and so on and so on. And so that's the course of action I took. I don't know if you did the opposite and you went the other way, but you look at what's the biggest fight, what's the most at stake on here in my mind, and then work your way down from it.
Yeah, I like that criteria for sure. Okay, for anyone who's maybe oblivious to the schedule or hasn't fully checked it out or just needs a reminder, I'll read these off real quick, the fights that we're going to be discussing, and then I'll let you open with your number 12 choice. So this Saturday, April 4th, Renato Moicano versus Chris Duncan, UFC Fight Night 272. Next week, UFC 327, obviously 2 title fights on that one, but the headliner is Jiri Prochazka versus Carlos Ulberg. That's April 11th. April 18th, UFC Fight Night 273 in Winnipeg, Gilbert Burns versus Mike Malott. UFC Fight Night 274, 275, I think I might have the numbers wrong here. April 25th, Aljamain Sterling versus Yusuf Zalal. Then we go to Perth to open the May schedule. Jack Della Maddalena versus Carlos Prochazka. Yes, that is UFC Fight Night 275. And then UFC 328, May 9th, Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland. May 16th, UFC Fight Night 276, Arnold Allen versus Costa. May 30th, we'll have a 1 week break there, our only break coming up anytime soon, Alan. And May 30th, Song Yadong versus Deiveson Figueiredo out there in Macau. And then opening June, Belal Muhammad versus Gabriel Bonfim at UFC Fight Night 278. And then the White House, Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje, Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane on June 14th. And then our last currently confirmed main event on the schedule, one yours truly broke, Alan Jouban, Manel versus Kyoji Horiguchi.
Great fight, man. That's a superb fight right there.
That is. Okay.
Really excited about that one.
Floor is yours, Alan. What was your opening one? So the bottom of your list here.
Yeah, so starting at the bottom of the list, look, it's actually the fight card that I'm working this weekend. But if I was being honest and I'm looking at all these events, I couldn't say that this one had me more excited than some of the other ones. Some of the other ones have some really good ones. Obviously, it's some numbered cards, some fights with a lot at stake. But this weekend, Renato Moicano versus Chris Duncan, it's really a good matchup to see for me where Chris Duncan is. Chris Duncan's a guy riding a 4-fight win streak right now. Renato Moicano, he's on a 2-fight skid. But you look at the damage that he did literally in that fight against Benoit Saint-Denis a while back, and it shows you this is the type of guy that, look, if he gets to the ground, if he gets on your back, he's either going to rear naked choke you or do a significant amount of damage to get the fight stopped. And Chris Duncan, he's just a war machine, man. I just got done watching his footage. I'm doing a little research already on it. And not a lot of, I don't think a lot of our viewers really are that familiar with him, but he's a guy, came on the Dana White Contender Series, lost his first fight, got knocked out by Vyacheslav, the striker from Team Alpha Male. Came back on Dana White Contender Series and had that war where he was almost out, knocks out his opponent. And since then, he's just been on a tear, man. And he's a guy, I'm kind of bleeding my research into the show right now, but he's a guy that powerful right hand, sneaky elbows on the inside, has a beautiful left side guillotine. So he's kind of that well-rounded guy in the division. He's a banger. He's a guy that you can't ever count out, and he thrives in the chaos. Anytime he gets hurt, even in the Terrence McKinney fight, he was hurt very badly. An elbow that he landed on the inside changed the course of the fight. The choke, the anaconda choke, put it away. So he's a guy that thrives in the chaos. We know Moicano is a chaotic guy in the ring and on the microphone. So that should be a fun one. But that's my number 12 on the list.
Yeah, I think that's what I had as well. It's makes sense, understandable. I guess through your research, the one question I had on this, you spoke very well of Chris Duncan there. If he wins this fight, I feel like all the conversation's going to be Moicano, 3 losses in a row. Is this the end of him? Duncan probably won't get his proper due, but this will elevate him into obviously a better fight. From what you've seen so far, does this guy have traits to be an elite lightweight? Like, it's one thing to beat Moicano. All the fights that are going to come after that, I assume, will be more telling.
A lot of those qualities that I just listed, it tells me he's the complete fighter. Now, I haven't seen him yet against the elite level competition to kind of put my stamp of approval on it, but everything I've seen tells me he has the ability to do it, right? Because physically, he's very strong. He thrives in chaos. He gets hurt sometimes, but a lot of times he comes back, so he can weather a storm. We know he's got the mental and the toughness. He's not only a striker, but he's got a lot of submission wins as well. And to have a guillotine is something that's so important in the game this day and age, because even if you aren't the best wrestler, the threat of the guillotine subdues a lot of these guys. The threat of it there, you have to think, like, one of my things for Moicano in this fight is when you're shooting, you can't put your head on the right side of the body into the left arm. You have to put your head on the left side of the body into his weaker side guillotine. So when guys have those type of threats, it makes you really start to reevaluate your game. If he can, to kind of answer your question, if he could get through Moicano and do so in style points, look, I think 3 of his last 4 wins were by finish. 3 of his last 4 wins were also by submission. I don't know if he's going to go out there and submit Money Moicano, but if he's able to do that, put him away, possibly even submit him, it shows where this guy is at. Money Moicano is the guy. I don't think he's one of the top in the division, but he is a guy that has been fighting elite level people. And when I looked at Moicano's record, I didn't realize he had so many wins and losses against high caliber competition. I mean, it wasn't just the Islam fight that he took last minute, but he's just got a list of guys when you look at Moicano. Like he's got wins over Benoit Saint-Denis, Jalen Turner, Drew Dober, Brad Riddell, Alexander Hernandez, Jai Herbert, Cub Swanson, Calvin Kattar, Jeremy Stevens, and so on and so on. And those are just the wins in the UFC. So he's got a number of losses, but he's been fighting the top tier competition.
Do you feel like he's fallen off a bit? I mean, he was on that great winning streak. Then he has the crazy short notice, 1 day notice fight with Islam. I basically write that off, but we did have the Beneil Dariush fight after that, and that's his most recent fight. When you look at that one, is this a lesser version of the guy who was on that winning streak leading up to the Islam fight?
You know, possibly so. I'm looking at it now. Moicano is 36 years old, right? Chris Duncan is 32 years old. Slight, difference in the age. But it does feel to me like it's one of these fights where these guys are meeting in the middle in terms of Chris Duncan's a young guy on the way up. Moicano's a guy that has a name reputation, and he's got a couple fights. They're going to meet right now and see who's going up, who's going down, which direction is going. So it does feel like Chris Duncan is on the rise, but we have to see. Like I said, this is the toughest competition, the biggest name that he's been against in his first main event. Moicano, this is his 4th main event. He's got experience, and he's look, when he went in there last minute to fight on a huge pay-per-view against the champion, the #1 pound-per-pound fighter in the world, Islam Makhachev, he went in there and he looked really good on the feet. I mean, he was pressing forward. He wasn't gun shy at all. He was letting his shots go. He even dropped. People forget about this, but he dropped Islam. I mean, it was kind of a stumble, but he hit him with a punch. A punch connected. Islam hit the floor. He bounced back up. He wasn't gun shy at all, and it showed his danger. It was just when the fight hit the mat, Islam took him down, that Islam patented Darce did enough damage to get it done. But he's the guy that's dangerous everywhere. And so it'll be a good test. I think it'll be a good test for Duncan, not writing off Renato Moicano in any way, but it's a good test for Duncan to see where he's at against some of these more savvy guys in the division.
Yep, and we need fights like this at lightweight, because as you look through here, the only other lightweight fight on our schedule in the main event is the championship with Ilia Topuria. So we need some movement, some turnover. This is Chris Duncan's opportunity. Okay, what's your number 11 fight here?
All right, coming in at a number 11, my former division, the welterweights, Gilbert Burns versus Mike Malott. Did you have that one at number 11 as well, or did you have a different one?
Yeah, I feel like the bottom 3 were kind of
a given right there.
Yeah.
Gilbert Burns is a guy. He's getting up there in age, and he's a guy that's competed for the title before, and he's almost. I don't say almost. I think he is. Well, you tell me your thoughts on this. What I was going to say is he's almost more well known for a loss, and that was the spectacular fight against him and Khamzat Chimaev, where he took every bit of Khamzat Chimaev's power, grappling, went back and forth, was able to hurt Khamzat Chimaev. He showed the heart. He showed he wasn't going to back down against the intimidation factor that Khamzat was bringing all weekend in the fight, and he really became a bigger star in that defeat than I think he has in some of his other fights. Although obviously, he's fought for the belt and he's done some really big things, but that was I think what really kind of gave him that extra boost to make him more of a household name. Now he needs to get things going again. He's not as active of a fighter as he was anymore, but Mike Malott is that guy. And I believe this fight is in Canada, right? I mean, Mike Malott, hometown guy, I guess you could say, somewhat over there. So this is kind of another one of these guys where the older dog with the bigger name coming up against the younger, hungry guy, meeting in the middle again.
Yeah, I think that's actually a trait of a lot of these fight night main events that we're talking about. Like some of these other ones we'll get into have former champions, like trying to turn back a younger guy. So this is obviously.
And I guess that's kind of a common pattern you see in the UFC. You look at last weekend, Israel Adesanya and Joe Pyfer. This is kind of a thing that happens at times when you have a name and they've on a bit of a skid right now. It's an opportunity to build the younger guy.
It feels like it's been the matchmaking trait of this whole year. I mean, you look at and it's gone different ways, like Patty and Justin Gaethje. Obviously, the older guy fended him off. Israel wasn't able to do that. Volkanovski and Diego Lopez. We saw Kevin Vallejos beat Josh Emmett. So like we're getting mixed results with these, but the matchmaking seems to be similar, which I like. I mean, this is what we need to build new names and build momentum for some of these other guys in the sport.
Yeah.
So this is a tough one for Gilbert. I talked to him a few weeks ago. He said he had a pretty bad concussion from the Michael Morales fight and like was giving him issues. A few months later, he had to restart his whole protocol, and it just kind of delayed things. He was hoping to fight like November, December, but it just kind of kept getting pushed back. And we see what they're trying to do here. Got Mike Malott over on the Canadian guy. Colby Covington, who I spoke with a few weeks ago, said that Hunter Campbell told him they're waiting for this fight to happen to determine his next opponent. So seems like the reward here might be a Colby Covington fight for one of these two guys.
Colby Covington versus the winner of Malott or Burns. That's kind of what you're hearing.
That's what Colby told me bluntly, that Hunter Campbell said that's the only fight he's interested for him right now. And obviously you take anything Colby says on the record, off the record with a grain of salt, but that seemed too specific and too like random to just be made up. So
but I guess it kind of makes sense because Colby, you know, he got the what was it called? The Dana White treatment for a while, right? I mean, he was given a lot of big opportunities.
According to him, he's UFC's treated him bad the whole career.
I don't know about that. I mean, he's had a lot of opportunities, you know, at cracks at the belt, jumped up the line, kept his ranking for a number of years with inactivity, with losses. I think this is where the matchmaking starts to make a little bit more sense for a guy like Colby Covington, who hasn't done a lot of good things in the last few years. Now you have to fight down a bit, either an older Gilbert Burns or an up-and-coming Mike Malott.
Yep. Okay, where'd you have at 10?
All right, number 10 on my list, I'm going with Song Yadong versus Deiveson Figueiredo in this matchup. Song Yadong, he's just always explosive, power, speed. Deiveson Figueiredo, obviously up a division now, the former champion. He's looked good. He's been kind of hit or miss depending on who he's going against. Look, we can't really judge him. I believe it was the Petr Yan fight. Was that his last loss, Deiveson Figueiredo versus Petr Yan? He might have had a fight since then, but
let me double check. He lost to Umar in January.
Oh yeah. So he's had some tough matchups. And you know, this one I wouldn't say this is getting any easier against Song Yadong, but this is a winnable fight. You know, it's not a former champion or a guy at the very, very top of the division. Still young, still strong, but nonetheless, two guys that are going to put on an exciting show. Two guys that like to press forward, look for the kill every part of the fight. So that's why I brought that one to number 10.
Yeah, I agree. This when I look at this, I mean, Figueiredo's done it all. He's got that flyweight legacy. It doesn't really seem like he's gonna get to the top of bantamweight, but he can still fight top guys. But I'm more focused on Song here. Like you look at the past 5 years for him, his losses: Corey Sandhagen, Petr Yan, Sean O'Malley. Like when he gets up to that top level, he struggles. He got the Henry Cejudo win, but kind of tainted with the eye pokes and stuff. So like, I feel like that was his clean signature win. I feel like he needs to show something for us here. Like still only 28 years old, which is kind of crazy. He's got like 34 fights, but
jeez, Yadong's only 28 years old.
Yeah, 28, 29.
Started so young, man.
Yeah, so I feel like he's got to get over the hump with one of these wins at some point against former champion type dudes. So that would be my big storyline going to that one. Number 9.
Number 9 on my list is going to be my former division once again, and a former foe, the former champion Belal Muhammad going up against Gabriel Bonfim. Look, it's hard for me to look at this fight, Mike, and not think that they're almost punishing Belal Muhammad. This is a tough matchup, I find. Gabriel Bonfim, he's a submission expert. You know, I don't have his bio in front of me, but the guy submits just about everyone. He's very dangerous on the ground. If you're looking to take him down constantly, you're putting yourself in harm's way, which is traditionally Belal's path to victory. But then he shows on the feet, he's got that like Brazilian Muay Thai type of style, and he showed in his last fight, which I believe was against Randy. Was it Randy Rude Boy?
Brown. Yeah,
Randy Brown, right? Got that early stoppage, and a lot of people. I think I was the only analyst at the desk that had Bonfim winning this one. Everybody was picking against him. They just felt like it was Rude Boy's time. But he showed, look, he's dangerous everywhere. He's a very long, rangy guy with a strong skill set, like a very high-level skill set at finishing fights. And you have Belal Muhammad, who, ever since he won the title and inevitably lost it, has been kind of struggling to find who he is as a fighter anymore. There was a point where we thought, I personally thought Belal Muhammad was one of the best grapplers we've seen because what he had done, his body of work, being able to take down anybody and everybody in just the control time, he was becoming like that Khabib type of fighter. And what he did to Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards was the guy that was able to out-grapple so many fantastic grapplers. And then you saw what Belal did with him, just dumping him on his head, and just having his way with him. And then it stalled out. It's like Belal didn't have that ability to take it, or he was making bad decisions. While Belal was acting like he was thinking that he was going to go in there like Canelo boxing. He was joking about it, but then he did not implement the game plan of going in there right away, putting on the pressure, putting them on the heels, taking them down from the opening bell, and continuing that. And that's what opens up Belal's striking. He's going to need to get back to the old ways, but as I said, it's kind of a double-edged sword because anytime you're putting yourself in a takedown position against Bonfim, you're putting yourself in a position to possibly get submitted. So I felt like this was one of the toughest matchups that the UFC could give Belal. So it feels like a bit of a punishment on my end.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup for sure. I'm curious to see how it plays out. It's so interesting. I just hear you like think back of the Jack Della Maddalena fight, and it's like if Belal went in there and executed that night, like how many timelines go different, right? Like Islam doesn't move up to 170. We probably have already seen him fight Ilia Topuria at lightweight last summer. The winner of that probably has another title defense under their belt. Like it's just so crazy. And now obviously that fight is not happening and these guys are in different divisions.
It was a trend right there when Belal fought Jack Della Maddalena and he decided not to really shoot a takedown until the end of the fight. Yeah. And at that time, he hadn't really set the pace and he wasn't fighting in his own rhythm. And then Jack Della Maddalena goes and fights Islam and kind of didn't fight properly as well. He kind of kept staying on his back, trying to work that octopus sweep rather than just working on getting up or using your hips, stuffing takedowns like traditional stuff. And it was just kind of a curse of Belal didn't fight tactically very smart against JDM, and then JDM carried that over in his next fight as well. So hopefully Belal gets everything worked out, man. I'm always rooting for the guy. It really is stylistically a very tough matchup for him.
Yeah, how I guess like is this Belal needs this one though, right? If he wants to be back in that mix, right? Like former champion, obviously you got the big Ian Gary fight. That one didn't go his way either. Like if we're going to talk about him with this rapidly evolving, amazing welterweight division, which is as good as it's ever been with talent, he needs to bounce back here, right?
He needs it. And he also needs something exciting because Belal kind of got that treatment, right? Where he was win, but he wasn't getting big opportunities. He wasn't putting on the type of entertaining fights that the UFC wanted out of him. And so he kind of got punished, became the champion. They weren't really promoting him as well. And now it's just been tough fight after tough fight. And here's another one for him. So he needs to go in there and not only win, but I think he needs to do something exciting, get on the microphone, just create that momentum and that buzz surrounding his name again.
Yeah, I think he can do it too. I'm not writing Belal off just yet, so we'll see what happens with him. Okay, go ahead. What do you have at 8?
Where were we at? That was number 9, Belal Muhammad. Yeah. Number 8 on this one, it's going to be Arnold Allen versus Melquizael Costa. You know, like for me, this fight, and I hate to make it one-sided, but I'm just so curious about Mel because I followed his career for a while. I called a couple of his fights, or maybe it was just one of them, but it was in the LFA. And I remember talking to him for the very first time, and he was a 145er, and he took a 155-pound main event last minute against a very tough guy. And I remember asking him, like, is the weight, is the size, is the power going to be an issue? He goes, brother, I fight any weight, any cat. It doesn't matter to me. And he goes in there and just smokes the guy. Stood on the feet the entire time. The kind of key to victory for a lot of people in that fight was get the fight to the ground against this bigger, more dangerous striker. No, Mel stands and trades with him and outstruck him the entire time. We see him going to the UFC. He's had a tremendous amount of success, as we've seen on a big fight win streak. Was his last victory that finish over Dan Ige, I believe. Yeah. And that's what warranted. Yeah, that's what warranted this. I mean, Dan Ige was a guy that had never been finished in his entire career. Mel goes out there, puts a stamp on it. Just to get a win like that over a guy like Dan Ige. Dan Ige, and don't take this as a gatekeeper thing, but Dan Ige is a guy that he only loses to like the guys in the top 5, top 7. Other than that, he looks very, very well. Mel was that guy that traditionally Dan Ige would have gotten through. Mel went out there, put a stamp on it, and finished him. It showed where the sky is, the limit is for Mel. So I'm looking at this fight like, how far can Mel go against a very tough Arnold Allen?
Yeah, perfectly well said. And I wonder, I guess I'll take the Arnold side of that. Just where he's at. Like, I feel like he again needs a moment like this, similar to what we were saying about Song Yadong, like got in the UFC very young, some time off, some big high profile fights, but it's just kind of come up short in the big moments and being hurt by inactivity. So, I mean, for him, it's 3 losses in 4 fights. Obviously, the losses are to John Silva, Movsar Evloev, and Max Holloway. So, no shame, not many guys beating those
Yeah, tough
3,
guys.
period. But like, still, you need this. And I feel like if Arnold wants to kind of fulfill his potential, definitely have to have this.
Yeah, good matchup on this one. All right, my number. Let's see, that was number 7 on my matchup coming up April 25th. Aljo, former champion, versus Yusuf Zalal. This is a good fight, man. Like, it's hard not to root for Yusuf Zalal as of lately. He's just been looking so good in his fights. Like, he's such a I take him as a very smart IQ fighter. He's a very like loving guy when you speak to him, very friendly and outgoing. And when he gets in there, it's like a computer. He's using his range, he's using his distance. He's picking his shots very wisely. He's utilizing his grappling, which has looked phenomenal. Was Yusuf Zalal's last fight? I keep asking you for every fight. I didn't look up all of these matchups, but it might have been. Was it the early submission win over
Josh Emmett? Yeah,
Josh Emmett? Thank you very much. I mean, to go and take down, like, you're the rangy striker, and you go take down Josh Emmett and submit him in the first round.
98 seconds.
Highly impressive. I mean, it really just blew my mind, and it just showed you the type of capabilities that he has. But like, now, what is he going to do against a guy like Aljamain Sterling, who, like, when you think of the word backpack, taking the back and just being able to ride you out, he's one of the very best in the world. A guy that went toe-to-toe with Movsar Evloev in the grappling department. Was a very fun exchanges. Does Zalal try to dip his toes in the water of the grappling in this one, or does he use that high IQ that I keep, boasting about him on, and just stay on the outside? But you can't do that very easily against Aljamain Sterling. Aljo's a guy, high IQ as well, right? He's a guy that his hands have really developed over the years, very much so. But traditionally, this was Aljo's style. He throws these wild kicks from the outside, really far out of range. Wild kicks get you frustrated. Then when you start to throw your hands out of frustration, he level changes, takes you down, backpack, boom, that's a wrap. And so it became like an in and out game with Aljo. Now Zalal, who likes to play the outside game and the inside as well with the wrestling, they're both going to have that kind of chess match in here. So that's why that one intrigued me. But really, Zalal, he's just been on the up as of lately, but this is by far the toughest test that he's faced.
Yeah, currently in the rankings, Aljo number 5, Yusuf Zalal number 7. You think either of these guys with the right performance could get a title shot off this win, or do you think the top of the weight class picture is maybe a little too rough for them? I mean, obviously, it seems like we are maybe going to get Volk and Movsar finally, rightfully. After that, though, Diego Lopez number 2 fighting Steve Garcia at the White House. If Volk can obviously keeps that belt, I assume Diego Lopez is not fighting for it anytime soon. Lerone Murphy at 3 coming off a loss. Yair Rodriguez at 4. Where are you, Yair? No idea where he went. And yeah, right after that, then John Silva at 6, who seems to think he's very close. But
I mean, it puts him in the picture, right? I mean, I don't know if I would feel comfortable saying a win here gets a title shot. Maybe one more win away. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think a win from a win type of thing away. But I could see for Aljo, maybe if some timing breaks in his way, or like someone gets injured, or they just need something for this time frame where a guy can't fill in and he's the one who gets the call. I think he puts himself in position to get a phone call, where I think Yusuf would probably in that scenario get beat out by some of the other star power or people.
Yeah, it feels like Zalal has more to gain in this matchup, coming off of a win over the name of an Aljamain Sterling. I mean, like, if he was able to get through Aljo, it's like, wow, okay, this guy maybe is ready for the top of the division. So
and
it'll be interesting to see, man.
They've trained together. I think they kind of consider themselves friends. So curious to see if that impacts the fight at all. But yeah, I generally agreed with this middle order. I think I had my list basically the exact same as you, except I had Belal Muhammad at 8 instead of 9 for that fight.
Okay.
I slide in here too. Okay, so we're getting to the top half of the list here, Alan. Number 6, what did you have?
All right, this one's a bit of a sleeper, I find. This one could have even been, from personal reasons, higher up on my list, but I just had to look at what's at stake. But as far as just, an exciting matchup against 2 guys, Manel Kape versus Kyoji Horiguchi. Where do I start? Horiguchi, God, he might be the best guy in the division that we don't know. I mean, since he's been back in the UFC, it's been just flawless execution. He looks so good, so polished, such a seasoned vet, and he really has been a great addition to the division since he's been back. So this is kind of going to let me see where he's at. But my goodness, Manel Kape, I've said this before. I think he has the fastest hands in all of the UFC, the fastest fighter to me by far. I think he would give the champion Josh Van a lot of trouble if that matchup happened. I mean, I think they have similar styles. I know that's not the matchup that's happening right now, but like I think he has a speed advantage on everyone. I think he is able to close distance. He's got the knockout power. He knows how to avoid takedowns. Manel Kape. And now he's going up against probably one of the more well-rounded guys with a different style in Horiguchi. Horiguchi's just got like almost like that old school polished new style that he brings to it. Just good everywhere. So this is high stakes for me when I look at this matchup. Two high-level fighters.
Yeah, it's incredible. I know there's some disappointment from the fans. Like their first fight in Japan was in front of 20,000 people, and this is going to be in the Apex. It's not going to be the same environment for these two.
Yeah.
Would have loved it. Obviously, I think Saitama Super Arena is under construction right now or something, so I don't even think they could do an event there if they wanted to. But yeah, great fight, high stakes. I think the winner very much in a good position for a title shot. Who do you think they will be looking to challenge, though? We'll swerve this into a quick co-main event prediction for UFC 327. Who do you think is going to win between Van and Taira?
Oh, man. Put me on the spot here, Mike.
I know. You're I give you the grace of changing things as fight week goes on and you read it, but just like kind of your
your
immediate thought.
Tatsuda Taira is he's just like, he's got that, like I call it cheetah shot, right? He's so fast. He scrambles. If he gets a hold of you, he finds the back. Joshua Van is just such a polished striker, but I haven't seen enough of him in these scramble positions to feel comfortable saying I think he's able to stuff these takedowns for 25 minutes to stay on the feet. And so it's got me leaning towards Tatsuda Taira, just because I feel like over the course of 25 minutes, he might find something. Even if Joshua Van's piecing him up for 3 rounds, there's always that opportunity that he makes one mistake and Taira slaps on the choke.
Yep. Great thoughts there too. Okay, let's get into our top 5 here. Alan, did you go all chalk with title fights in the top 4? Is this Jack Della Maddalena versus Carlos Prochazka, or you got to swerve for us with a title fight at 5?
I got to look at all mine before answering. Okay, so I didn't. I threw a bit of a curveball here. I'm going to give you a title fight right now that is my number 5 because I'm putting a fight night ahead of that one because of a personal excitement in the stylistic matchup. But coming in at number 5, solid card, excellent matchup, Jiri Prochazka versus Carlos Ulberg for the vacant title right now. I mean, Jiri Prochazka, you know what he does. He's so fun. He's like, I keep thinking about him like watching the Alex Pereira fight and like almost in tears and wanting like another opportunity, another crack at the belt. And he's finally getting it. Carlos Ulberg has just been on an absolute tear. One of the best counter punchers in the division for sure, possibly the UFC. We know about his check hook, but he's also got an evasive counter pull right hand. Jiri Prochazka is a guy that does walk forward, but it's in an unorthodox way, so it's sometimes hard to get his timing. But it's kind of like that striker's delight in the division. 2 guys. Jiri's tested through and through, and Ulberg is a guy that's just been on the climb. For me, this is part of the reason I put it here. Ulberg, as good as he is, and as good looking as he is, and all the ladies love him. He's the hot guy in the UFC right now, and he's literally one of the hottest fighters. He puts me to shame. I mean, but he doesn't carry the name value right now for me yet, Carlos Ulberg. He doesn't. And when you look at that last fight that he had, Carlos Ulberg, and you look at the press, the build-up, the lead-up with him versus Dominic Reyes, it was crickets. Yeah. There was nothing happening. It was one of the worst, and I say this respectively, it was one of the worst promotions we've seen by 2 fighters. It was crickets. They couldn't say anything exciting. Even if they didn't want to be disrespectful to one another, they couldn't say anything like, I'm going to knock him out. And I know that, a belief in myself. There was none of that there. And if you don't have a guy that could promote a fight, even if he could fight his ass off, then what do we have? And Ulberg, as amazing as he is as a fighter, like he's not like a guy that like, all right, he doesn't say much, but damn, he's a dog in there. He's not a dog, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but he's a precision counter puncher that will put your lights out. But sometimes before the knockout, you get 90 seconds of booze because there's that timidness because nobody wants to take a step. So Ulberg, I mean Yuri, he's beloved, but this fight fell behind just a fight night, even though this is a title fight on a numbered card. Because of that, we need the excitement, the engagement. We need the promotion. Look, you look at the MVP card that's kind of going head to head with the White House card. Those aren't title fights. Those are people way past their prime, but there's something exciting about it, right? There's something in the air. There's a promotion heavy set to it, and I haven't seen that much. You get some fun stuff from Yuri, and he does it
100%.
like unknowingly, but I need more from Carlos.
I think that's totally fair. I mean, that's half the game, if not more now, is, creating interest and excitement in your fights. And luckily for Carlos, Yuri is probably going to, carry all the weight for that into this fight just because he is so unique and people are so captivated by him. So that helps a little bit. But yeah, if he was to win this, I mean, I had Chael Sonnen on earlier this week and I kind of gave him like some hot takes. And one of them was, is there a world where Carlos Ulberg winning this is actually better for the light heavyweight division because he never lost twice to Alex Pereira? He's got the New Zealand, Australia market. Like there's not as much of a hangover of Pereira's presence with him because he can say like, I never lost to that guy. Like he left the division before he could fight me. I'm on the 10 fight winning streak now. Like there's things you can do. From your perspective, it doesn't sound like he's actually going to be willing to come out and beat the drum and say that kind of stuff. But I could see that was like my argument to being like,
Did Chael have a take on that?
he was like, I could see that maybe being true. Like there's,
He played ball, but you don't know if he really believed it.
No, yeah. And I think we all do. I mean, it feels like a stretch even to me to say this over Yuri, but I can't get that out of my mind a little bit. Like we saw Yuri get knocked out twice by Alex, and now we're suddenly supposed to believe he's the best light heavyweight in the world if he wins this fight.
It's a tough sell. It's a tough sell. We love him. Like we're always going to watch his fight. You could always put him on a main event. Mm-hmm. But is he the best in the world when he's obviously lost to the best guy in the world numerous times? It's tough. It's a tough sell.
Yep. And we've seen this many times before. I mean, Johnny Hendricks at welterweight when George St. Pierre retired. Like, list goes on and on where these things happen. I mean, multiple times this year we have Mackenzie Dern as the strawweight champion, where I think a lot of people do not believe she would beat Zhang Weili. So this is just the reality of these things sometimes. Okay, number 4 here.
All right. So, in anticipation, you guys were wondering, how did I put a fight night above a title fight? Well, the reason I did that is because fight night 275, May 2nd, some details there. Jack Della Maddalena is taking on Carlos Prates in one of my favorite matchups on this entire card. Carlos Prates, listen, I've picked against Carlos Prates 1 or 2 times. And I was correct about it. Like I knew when he went against Ian Gary, that was just kind of not a great matchup for him. And maybe it was just one time, but he wasn't happy. I saw him in the hotel later on after that and went to give him some love. And he was very timid to want to give me some love. And I was like, oh, he watched the pre-show. So he wasn't happy with that pick. He has proven me wrong as well other times. I mean, he is just a killer in there. The way that he disposes with people, Prates, for a guy with that type of body, Mike, he's not supposed to have that type of power, right? Like he doesn't. Power punchers are built like Mike Tyson. They're not built like a basketball player, but he possesses so much power in that tall, lanky frame and the aggressive nature that he pushes forward and makes fighters uncomfortable. And he forces that invisible pressure and they make a mistake. And he is so quick to capitalize on it. People forget that he has a very extensive Muay Thai kickboxing background. And then when you get in there, you see the relaxation and the playfulness and how comfortable he is. Because when you've gone against high-level strikers for the majority of your career, and then you go against like MMA strikers, you're like, oh, like I know the threat's not here. Like I don't have to be cautious about that feint. That feint doesn't scare me. And you see that. He's got this swagger about him. It was like kind of like vintage Israel Adesanya when Izzy would go inside the cage and kind of just stunt on people. You see that from Carlos Prates, but it's just the southpaw finishing ability style of Carlos Prates against the inside boxing dirty work of Jack Maddalena just has me so intrigued. This is a phenomenal matchup.
Yeah, it doesn't get better than this for non-title type of fights and like high-level contender stuff. And I just wonder. I feel like Jack's getting a little underestimated or slept on for this fight, just because he just had no moments of success against Islam in there. But if you look at the guy who had that 18 fight winning streak leading into that one, he can still be very dangerous. But you just wonder a little bit how losing your belt like that affects confidence, mentality. This is always interesting to see the first fight for anyone after losing the title when it's not a title fight.
And it's obviously a much different fight than the Islam fight.
Yeah, it could not be much more different.
But like, I'll tell you now, I think this is a tough matchup for Jack Della Maddalena.
Yeah.
He's a guy that relies heavily on getting on the inside, right? Because he's a beautiful combination work guy. He'll throw his jab, he'll throw his overhand, then he'll dig the body, he'll look for an uppercut, he'll push against you, a dirty box, and find these beautiful angles. You've got to find a guy that was willing to dance like that, and that's not the way that Protez dances. Protez is 6 feet away, and then next thing you know, there's a knee coming 6 feet high, or there's a head kick by a left punch. He's so sneaky and so smooth, and if he doesn't allow Jack Della Maddalena to get into that mid-range, it's going to be possibly a tough night. We might have to see Jack really press the action and put himself in harm's way, and that's why this one just, God, I mean, this is one of my, if it wasn't for the amount of like the title fights and what's at stake in all these fights and the 12 fights that you've given me, this might be my favorite fight on the card. Stylistic and the guys fighting, how good they are. This is one of my favorites on here.
Yeah, I mean, if you put this higher, I would not have blamed you. Like, this is all about preference. There's nothing. These are your rankings,
Yeah.
Alan. So whatever you're interested in, if you wanted to put it higher, I wouldn't have given you flack at all. So the one thing I'm interested to, and it's probably nothing because Carlos just seems like such a loosey-goosey, I go with the flow, I don't care about anything. But like, there was a moment in time where it seemed like he was going to maybe get this Conor McGregor fight in July. Like, it was real.
Was that a real thing?
It was absolutely real. They discussed it. Conor said he was down. I don't know if contracts were sent or anything like that. I don't think so. But like, it was an idea that had more than an idea for him. And I just wonder, like, again, to think maybe you're on the verge of getting that fight, preparing for all the trash talk, all the lead up, and then you go to Jack Della Maddalena in Perth, in his hometown. He's not going to say anything to promote the fight. Like, he'll just keep to himself. Could not be a bigger transition between the two things, but I don't think he was far enough down the Conor road to really like get his hopes up or be fully invested in that.
I don't know if that's a good fight for Conor.
like, that would be really bad, but it seems like they're wanting to give Conor hard fights. I mean,
but how do we go from Michael Chandler to Carlos Protez? It's a complete. I mean, it's a world of difference. You're talking about an older fighter with a lot of losses and a style that works fantastic for Conor's style. Now you go to Carlos Protez, a tall, rangy, young knockout artist. I didn't know if there was any truth to that matchmaking right there, because I thought, well, why would they want to bring Conor in and just have him get knocked out? So,
I mean, let's see. My guess would be they're just trying to maximize, whatever he has left. Maybe 2 years ago when he was going to fight Michael Chandler, and this forgotten poster that's behind me that will never see the light of day.
Like, look at that.
Pay-per-view was still a thing. They were probably more optimistic about re-signing him for a longer-term future. Like, it seems like he maybe wants to go explore some of this stuff out there. So if they're going to be like, Conor, you have 2 fights left on your deal, we're not signing a new thing. These 2 fights are probably going to be very difficult. So
yeah, is that an official poster?
Yeah, that was the official poster.
Conor and Chandler.
Yeah, there's a plant in the way of
it. Hey, dude,
I know. I got it. It was just hanging in the bar down the street for me, and I went in when it got canceled. I'm like, can I have this? Yeah, go ahead.
I can't. That's probably okay. I'm getting off topic, but that's probably worth like over $1,000 or something.
Yeah. Did you see Nate Diaz's interview with Theo Vaughn earlier this week?
I saw bits and pieces. You have a specific part of it you're talking about?
I mean, he said that they wanted to do the Conor fight, and they offered him more money than he's getting from MVP for Mike Perry, and he wanted to fight Charles Oliveira, and he doesn't want to fight Conor McGregor when they're both at a low point. He said, we're going to do this fight, and it'll be when they're both on the uprise. And I mentioned that to Chael as well, and I'm like, it seems pretty optimistic to think Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz are both simultaneously going to be on the uprise at this stage of their career.
Yeah, like, respect. I respect Nate so much for what he's done, but sometimes he says things, and it's like he'd be a good politician, because he says stuff, and I'm like, Yeah,
Makes you think.
is he right? Is he
Yeah.
not? Like, because he's like, why would I want to? He's like, well, I think he threw Dustin under the bus. Dustin's a pussy, and
Yeah.
why would I go Connor? Connor's, I'm about to put the last nail in the coffin. I want somebody at the top of their game. Love Mike Perry, but he hasn't fought MMA in forever, and I
Yeah.
know it's so like go get the money, but it's just sometimes it's hard to believe everything that he's saying. But
Yeah.
it's if they're offering more money, then I completely get it. Take the money fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well,
were they offering him? Are they paying him more money than they would have paid him to fight Conor McGregor? I mean, that's a
he said
huge
no.
pay,
He said the UFC offered him more to do the Connor fight, and
and he
he,
turned down more money because Conor was on the low and
yeah,
low. That's a tough one
and he said he
to
wanted
live
to
with.
fight Charles Oliveira for the BMF. That was the fight he pushed for, but who
I don't
knows?
think that I don't think that's a good fight as well.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I don't.
yeah. We
Yeah,
could do a whole other topic on that, but let's
love
get it.
Nate doesn't
Yeah,
always make sense to me though.
yeah. Okay,
All right,
let's
where are
get
we
into your
at?
top. I think we're at 3. So your top 3 here.
All right, all right. Now,
Where it
now we
gets
can get to
tough.
a little interesting top three. These are obviously going to be title fights. These are going to be big ones. This one is going to include probably one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC when it comes. It's just the mystique that surrounds this man, the following that he has, the entrance into the octagon, and the domination that he has when he's in there with people. And I'm talking none other than Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland. Khamzat Chimaev, I was fortunate enough years ago to call or work the desk for a Khamzat fight. It was actually the Gilbert Burns fight. And the feeling that I got in that arena, every single fan got to their feet just to have a look at him running to the octagon. And then he sat on top of that octagon wall. It was something. And I go, God, this guy is a freaking star. Something about him. When I've been seeing these videos of him and Armand, and they're like in Huntington Beach or whatever, Venice Beach, and they're on the balcony, and there's like 50 people outside just trying to take a picture. There's levels to the game, and he, in terms of like star status and just something that he possesses. You see, like there's been like different I don't know if it was NFL players and stuff, but they go and just watching him train.
Mhm.
Like, when have we seen that before? When have we seen stars so popular that other sports athletes want to come and just get a glimpse of them training, and they're
Like
doing
Connor.
videos?
I think that's it.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's got something so unique about him, and it's all like genuine. You don't get this Kobe Covington vibe. You don't get this facade. You don't get this fake character. It's just like he's like a wild animal unleashed into this real world. And that's what's so interesting about him. Now he's going up against Sean Strickland. Chris Wyman put this in my brain when we worked to fight together a little while back, and it stuck, Mike. And he said he feels like Sean Strickland may be the toughest opponent for Khamzat Chimaev because of Sean Strickland's ability to put a jab in your face, carry a relentless pace, and be able to stuff takedowns. Sean sometimes is hit or miss, though, when it comes to stuffing takedowns. Sometimes it's like you saw against Fluffy. It wasn't a very long fight, but Fluffy couldn't get him down. Then you see in other fights, guys like DDP and others have been able to get him down. You would think Khamzat Chimaev would be able to get him down. Would he be able to finish him? Would he be able to take Sean Strickland's soul, or take that dog out of him when he gets up? And if he makes it to the second round, is Sean Strickland still popping that jab? All these questions have to be answered. But I could see it. I could see a place where Khamzat Chimaev dominates early the first 2 rounds and starts to slow down. I'm not saying he's out of shape. It looks like he's in the best shape of his entire life. But when you have that type of workload and that type of rate, if you're wrestling the whole time, you're burning more energy than you are striking. Even if you're a wrestler, it's taxing. And if he's going to be overloading his system with relentless pressure and wrestling, and he's not able to get Sean Strickland out of there, and Sean Strickland's able to get up and just start landing the jab, it's like it takes the energy bar down. So I could see a world where Sean Strickland turns the tables on him mid-fight, but I'm leaning towards the Wolf. Khamzat Chimaev is he's just so unique and special to watch in there.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're gonna see a reminder performance from Hamzat in this one. People are shitting all over what he did against Strickus, dominant, flawless, all that stuff. But I think he's been in the States for a while. He's doing all that training out in California. It seems like he's very locked in. So I'm expecting something kind of scary from Khamzat that's going to remind us of his earlier UFC run here. But I would not be surprised at all if Sean, makes it a fight. I'm not counting him out by any means, but very, very, very interesting. We're about 6 weeks out from this now. Is the hype, the excitement, are you feeling it? Like, there's all sorts of talk from Sean Strickland to get this fight. Since the fight has been made, pretty much nothing though. Khamzat hasn't done an interview. Sean's been pretty quiet besides some tweets and stuff. Like, are you expecting more out of this, or do you think it's going to be pretty quiet until fight week? I'm not sure if they're going to do a press conference with them in Miami for like the next event like they do sometimes. If they do, I think that changes stuff, but if they don't, I'm wondering what this build to fight week looks like.
Yeah, I don't know, because it's two interesting characters, and I think part of the reason is the UFC. They're like, if we put Khamzat Chimaev and Sean Strickland in the same room together, there's possible chaos. And so we have to control this. Sean Strickland is already a guy that the UFC kind of has that mute button ready for at all times, right? Khamzat Chimaev, you don't know. You say something wrong, you bump into him. He's the guy that will genuinely try to put you in your place physically. Sean Strickland's the guy that doesn't back down either. And he's notorious for finding something that triggers you. I think it would be an epic press conference. I'd love to see more build up in this, but I think the UFC is just like, we have to get these fights out right now. We can't cause anything that's going to disrupt this or anybody get in trouble. So I'm not saying that's why we haven't seen much of it yet, but I think that is something on the horizon that the UFC is thinking about. Like, how are we doing these press conferences, making sure these guys are separated at all times? All those things have to come into play when you have these two type of fighters.
Yeah, I could see the logic in waiting until fight week 2. And I also think from Sean Strickland's perspective, maybe a good idea to not put your finger too much in Khamzat's chest in the lead up to this. Like, that seems like a guy who you do not want to give any more motivation or bulletin board material to than he already has. So that would be my thought from Sean's side, but we'll see. Still got a few more weeks to go. Okay, Alan, your top 10 is all UFC White House, but in what order? What are you more excited for? What do you have at number 2?
All right. You got it. 2 title fights, both on the White House card. It really, for me, it came down to, I look at both fighters. I look at what's at stake. Now, Alex Pereira, I think the biggest story in this fight is the first person to become a triple champ, right? Going against Gane. You look at Ilia Topuria, though, in my mind, he's number 2 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Maybe he's number 1 when it comes to overall skill set. Justin Gaethje, one of the more exciting fighters we've ever seen inside the octagon. Final opportunity. And I'm going to just jump number 2 because I'm giving away number 1 if I go to number 2. My number 1 fight out of everything that we're waiting to see, especially on the White House card, is Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. I think it's just, you look at, I'm trying to think, when I think about Alex Pereira and Ciryl Gane, it's more, I can't wait to see Alex Pereira go into the octagon, do his walk. I can't wait to see him making that cold stare, and the production team zooms in on his eyes when they're standing in the center and Bruce Buffer's announcing their names. And I can't wait to see him go in there and maybe get a knockout or maybe get caught by the bigger, stronger, faster man in Ciryl Gane. But I don't have the same excitement as I do universally, the surrounding the entire fight in both fighters, as I do with Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje. And I know Justin Gaethje is a guy that's a little bit more on the back end. He's an older fighter. This is his last hurrah, trying to get the undisputed belt around his waist. And it's a tough task. I mean, everybody is kind of counting him out. Even people that know these fighters very well, guys like, Dustin Poirier and other fighters that have fought some of these men. They're like, I just think it's too much for Justin Gaethje to handle. But a guy like Justin Gaethje, who's been turning back all these young guns repeatedly, one after another, it shows that he's still got that ability in him, and he's still got that knockout power in him. But Ilia Topuria, Justin Gaethje, it's the fight that I'm most looking forward to on the books. Alex Pereira, Ciryl Gane, number 2.
Yeah, I tend to agree with the order. I would maybe flip it, but there's great cases for both. I mean, if you have a Justin Gaethje fight number 1 on any list of fights you're most looking forward to, I don't think anyone could mock you or say that's not correct. I mean, the guy is absolutely incredible, and I think he's not getting, for some reason, the same respect or admiration that he deserves. I mean, what more can you ask about this guy? He has the same amount of bonuses as he does freaking UFC fights. Like, he's unbelievable. So I love that. Let's talk a little Pereira first, though.
Yeah.
You said, he'd be the first 3 division champion. Is that legit in your mind, though? Or with the interim belt? The way I'm framing it to people is, I'll say he's the first fighter to win titles in 3 divisions, but not the first undisputed 3 division champion.
But there's never been a guy, correct? There's never been
Yeah,
anyone that's
no,
done it
there's
in
no
3
one who's
divisions,
won
but
belts in 3 weight classes, but
simply because it's an interim belt.
yeah, I mean, I think it's
I
to
mean,
truly get the most history about it.
yeah,
Like if Ilia, if he wins this fight and then say Ilia went up and fought Islam and beat him, like we would consider Ilia's 3 titles more legit, obviously,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
I mean, what's going on with Tom Aspinall at this point? I did see something that he might be back to training because if
Yeah.
Tom Aspinall, like, what if he doesn't come back and fight? I think I saw somebody talking about this at one point as well. But if Tom Aspinall is still not able to come back in a number of months and they end up stripping him anyway, but we've seen that before where like this an interim should have been a undisputed title, but it didn't work out and they ended up fighting for an interim belt. Yeah, maybe not as prestigious as if it was for the undisputed heavyweight title, but nonetheless, to go up 3 weight classes, impressive. But that's why I have this at number 2 as well, because if Ciryl Gane knocks out Alex Pereira, is that going to be more shocking to you than if Justin Gaethje knocks out Ilia
So
Topuria?
I was literally just like formulating a similar question to ask you in your mind.
There's more at stake for me. If Justin Gaethje knocks out Ilia Topuria, the world is going to lose their shit. They're going to, oh my God, Ilia Topuria,
Do you
the
think that would
perfect
be an
fighter.
all-time upset? Like, is that one of the biggest upsets we've seen? I asked John Anik the same question. I'll read you the same list. So yes or no off the mind, like, would you consider that one of the 10 biggest title fight upsets in UFC history?
Names alone, I think it's in the ballpark. I would have to see the odds though, because a lot of times,
Ilia's like minus 750, Justin's getting to like plus 500. It's kind of crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
What
So
is the
I'll read
list
these
you
off
have?
to you.
Go
I
ahead.
did the same thing with John Anik though. Would you consider Justin Gaethje beating Ilia Topuria a bigger upset than Matt Serra beating George St. Pierre?
No, but Matt Serra didn't have the name. He didn't have the name at that time. These are more bigger established fighters. Love Matt Serra, but at the time, he was coming off the Ultimate Fighter with this, like who wants to be a millionaire opportunity. He just landed a
no, I
punch.
agree. It's a no.
So
It's a no on
even
that
though
one.
there's a drastic difference in the upset, this would still be bigger to me. It's just like the same thing when the first fight of the night gets a beautiful knockout and the main event, 2 legends get a knockout. You have to go with the legends because it was a higher level.
Okay, so I'm going to keep going through this list because if you say that to that, yes to that one, I'm curious what else you would think it would be a bigger upset. Is it a bigger upset than Holly Holm beating Ronda Rousey?
Damn it, I knew that was next, Mike. What were the odds on that one? Do you know?
I don't know.
I think
Ronda
was
like in
minus
minus 800. She might have even been like minus 11.
Yeah.
But we don't need to go the odds. Just give your first instinct off of it. You know the game.
Maybe not. I feel like at the time Ronda was like the biggest star in the world. Her and Conor were like leading the dance, and it just seemed like the striker and Holly Holm, and they were like in Australia, right in front of like 100,000 people or something, and the head kick knockout.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an all timer. That's in my top 2 or 3. I think this would probably be in the top 5 though. The Justin Gaethje Ilia Topuria.
Okay, so is it bigger than Juliana Pena defeating Amanda Nunes? No way, right?
Okay. Once again, we find ourselves, Mike, at the first one, like Matt Serra and GSP, where Juliana Pena wasn't the level of fighter that Justin Gaethje is. And so although it was a huge upset, it was kind of a fluke because we saw what happened when they rematched and Amanda Nunes just had her way with Juliana Pena. And like, I'm not making excuses, but everybody on the inside said, Amanda Nunes had the flu and she was sick, or all this, she was sick. She wasn't right. So it was a huge upset, but it wasn't the level of 2 high-level athletes at the same time. So I'm going to say this would be bigger.
Okay.
For the reasoning that I just explained, though.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair one. What about TJ Dillashaw beating Henan Brow back in the day?
Yeah, this is bigger. Yeah.
You think so? Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
What
for
about
me? For me, it is.
Okay, I'll just throw a couple other ones at you. What about
maybe it's recency bias as well, but I'm so high on Ilia. Like,
I love this. I love the different perspectives. And
we'll get into it. Go ahead.
Yeah. What about Sean Strickland beating Israel Adesanya?
This one's close for me. This one's close because they're kind of the same entity in terms of Israel Adesanya, huge star, Ilia Topuria, swagger, just the perfect fighter. The up and coming, not the up and coming, but Sean Strickland, a name, a killer. Justin Gaethje, they're kind of in the same stratosphere for me. These would be. I can't give you definitive answers, but these would be about even for me.
Okay. No, I think based off that, what you said, that this would be like a 4 to 6 range on your list of biggest upsets of all time.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair thing, but it's a tough slog for Justin, I guess.
Is that all of them? Is that the list?
No, I have a few other ones. Michael Bisping over Luke Rockhold.
Yeah. I mean, that was a big one, but I didn't think Luke was like greatness at the time. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah, he hadn't defended the belt or anything. We had seen that first fight with Bisping, and Bisping comes in on like a half a week's notice or a week's notice,
shooting a movie knocks him out.
Yeah, so that's just kind of the circumstances. Chris Weidman beating Anderson Silva in the first fight.
That was a huge upset. That was big. Anderson Silva, Chris Weidman. That's kind of in the same stratosphere as this one for sure. Yeah, that was a big one.
Frankie Edgar beating BJ Penn in their first fight.
Yeah, that was big at the time, but it kind of like recency bias makes me kind of fade. If I'm being honest, it's tough.
No, it's a really interesting thing to just look back and do that, because like the Strickland and Izzy one is interesting to me, right? Because like I think he was a 4-1 dog, but like you look at what they've done since then, I think Strickland's proven to be a lot better than people thought he was going into that fight, and Izzy, that obviously kind of started.
Izzy's been on a 4-fight skid since then. And it's also, and I try not to do this because when you bring up a fight, you talk about who were these guys on that night and on that day, how good were they, and what did we expect for the future. But like when you bring up like the BJ Penn and Frankie Edgar, it's like Frankie and it wasn't immediate, but Frankie Edgar had some bad losses towards the end, and BJ Penn, it's just like when you see what's happened in his life, it's like, because there's still people like Dean Thomas, he'll be like, BJ Penn was the best lightweight in history. Sure. And I'm like, man, I remember how good he was, but like, was he? Like, would he compete with today's guys? And look how bad it went at the end of his career. But I also try not to do that, because look at Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva's on my Mount Rushmore, and he lost like his last 5 fights as well. Yep. It's tough, man. It's such water cooler talk. Everybody has a different opinion on things. But my point about Ilia, though, is he's so special. And if he were to knock out Justin Gaethje is a big name. He's a former champion, interim champion, BMF champion. So was Max, champion, BMF champion. I mean, Charles, champion, BMF champion, Volk. Like, has there ever been a resume quite like that? Like, he's a true, like, we kind of put Alex Pereira in this, like, have we seen anybody so dominant in such a short period of time type of thing? Mm-hmm. Like, is he the perfect fighter? Like, he had some favorable matchups, but he's also done things that we've never seen done before. So he's very special. But Ilia has just done it like with style points as well, because of who he's beaten, their resumes, and when he did it to him. Yes, Justin Gaethje is a little bit more in the back end of his career, but the other guys weren't. And the way that he put them to sleep, walk-off style, with their, like I said, I mean, the 3 of those 4 guys were champions and BMF guys. You know what I mean? It's so highly impressive. So you get him against the highlight reel, Justin Gaethje. A win over Justin Gaethje, I think it just makes Ilia the biggest name in the sport. And then the upset possibility, it's like, what? Justin Gaethje finally got the belt against who?
Yeah, on the main event on the White House lawn, the America, like it would be. I mean, I don't think people always say you can't end the White House show with America. Like I'm not buying into that. I think we will appreciate Ilia Topuria's greatness if he wins this fight and has a nice moment. Fans. But could you imagine if Justin Gaethje wins? Like the scenes would be absolutely insane. So that would be cool. And yeah, I think you're onto something there. I can't pull up the full list, but those 4 names, like that's got to be up there with the greatest 4-fight winning streak in MMA history. The first one that comes to mind off that would be John Jones in 2011, 2012, beating Shogun, Rampage, Machida, and Rashad Evans all in a row. And finishing 3 of them.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, but can make some tail end of their career. Some of those guys were middleweights, like blah blah blah. You can do a whole game here. You can discredit anyone's resume, Alan, but I think Ilia's is looking pretty freaking good if he wins this fight in the way he wants to.
He's so impressive. Are we done with the list? This list?
Yeah, we're good.
Because I wanted to just talk to you on like about last weekend. I thought last weekend's fight night, man. Did you watch the entire card?
Of course,
Yeah. It was just a breath of fresh air. It was a beautiful fight night. It delivered in every way possible. The fighters, the fans, the city. Seattle is a fight city, man. Let me tell you. Seattle has that 12th man thing going in football, and it's got that 12th man thing going in fighting. They're behind their fighters. They're against the international fighters. Like, even though I don't like it with the chanting USA, but I want you to be entertained. I want you to be into this. The fighters feed off of it. The commentators, everybody feels it. And it had that feeling throughout the night. Every fighter delivered. And it was just, more importantly, it was a big win. And to me, kind of a need for the UFC. The UFC needed that. There's been a couple of lackluster shows, and people have been trying to throw UFC under the bus. We needed that. I just want people to remember one thing. The UFC has been doing this for 30 years, putting on shows every single weekend with the top caliber fighters in the world, the biggest stable of the best fighters in the world. And there's a lot of back and forth going on right now with MVP promotions battling the White House card, like comparing the two. And look, the MVP card is fun. It's some fun matchups. I'm certainly going to watch. They did an excellent job putting this together. They gave some fighters that I know on the regional scene an opportunity on some of the prelims. They took the biggest names possible for the main card, and they put it together. But let's just put this in perspective when we're comparing the two, because I look at the MVP one and I go, that's fun. But that's also like at the end of a night, and like you see some chick at a bar and you're kind of drunk and she's kind of hot kind of thing, right? Like what about the next morning? How's she going to look? Is she going to be there next weekend? Is she going to be there for you in a month when the shit hits the fan? The UFC is the wifey. The UFC is the bae. 42 shows a year, the best fighters in the world, and this is just one of their cards, the White House card, with some of the best current fighters in the world battling each other. So we're taking one promotion, and that puts on 42 shows a year, and this is one of their better cards, against another promotion that's doing one card a year, and we're trying to compare apples to oranges. It's not in the same ballpark. This is an exciting fight, MVP, and they did a great job putting it together. But you can't take a promotion that does one card a year against a promotion that's 42 cards a year and say, who's got the better card here? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it doesn't work like that.
I agree. I mean, it's part of the fun of, I guess, being a fan is kind of doing this stuff. I get from like our side of the fence when you kind of have a little more clarity and context on things. But, I don't blame anyone who wants to get excited about something different. PFL sure isn't giving, that on a consistent basis to people, not taking shots at them, but like, they don't have the name value of a card like this. And even if they have done cards with Cyborg and Francis and Gane, like, it hasn't come across the same way. But yeah, man, UFC is incredibly reliable. There's going to be stretches. Like, I've been doing this for 13, 14 years now. There's going to be stretches of bad events and forgettable stuff, but it's always an ebb and flow, like you would hope this weekend the momentum can be followed up, but obviously not as strong of a card as Seattle or as Miami, but some people who could have their opportunity to break through, like, it's just, it's two different ball games, as you said. Like, the UFC is trying to do something completely different than what MVP is trying to do. And from what you hear talking to anyone, there's no long-term plans beyond this. They're going all in on this card, Netflix, right. MVP. If it does incredible, maybe they circle back. But like you said, how many people are there available? Does Ronda Rousey or Gina Carano want to do another fight after this? Yeah. Can they, find someone interesting for Francis Ngannou or Nate Diaz? So there's a lot of things to figure out. But as far as like a one-off, it reminds me of what like Affliction tried to do, right? Yeah. When they came in and they paid
blazing early,
and paid all these people, and were taking shots at the UFC and tried to go head to head and all these things. I think it's all good for the sport. You don't need to, pick and choose. There's a fight night on May 16th, headlined, I think, by Arnold, Allen, and Melky Costa. There's nothing wrong with having that on one TV and Netflix on the other one. Like, we can enjoy it all, and you would hope, all tides raise the whole boat. But yeah, man, like with the UFC, if they're putting on as many cards as they do, not every single fight is going to be a home run. It's just
100%. I keep going back to my girl analogy. UFC to me, it's like the wifey that's wearing like raggedy, holy pajamas on the weekends, but she's still sleeping in bed with you every single night. And you're gonna get that date night now and then. You can't just look at the chick in the mini skirt at the bar and the one fight. All right, enough of that analogy. I had to get that.
And my thought too is,
that one out.
I think we're in a very interesting kind of transitional phase with the UFC roster, as you can see with some of these main events that we just talked about. Like there's a lot of interesting fighters who have come off the past 2 seasons of Dana White's Contender Series that I think have real potential. But right now, they only have 1 or 2 fights in the UFC, so we don't know.
Yeah.
How good can these guys be? How excited can we be, especially if their debut is on the prelims of an Apex card or something like that? Like, it's just not quite there yet. But I think you look at this crop of talent that are 1 or 2 fights into the UFC, when we're talking about them in a year and a half, when they have 5, 6 fights, I think the conversation of what the roster looks like and how many good fighters with potential, championship potential, is going to be very different than right now, which you could argue is kind of a middle stage of some big names retiring and losing their belts and things like that.
Yeah, because that for me, the Dana White Contender Series, that's what it is. It's a perfect for the company, right? We're building these guys, we're telling this story, we're giving them a huge opportunity. Now you get to know them, and now they're in the UFC, and you're starting to follow their career. So and we're getting them at a low pay scale. They're not negotiating coming from one championship, saying, I want to start off at $500,000. You're getting them at a beginning tier pay scale. So it works beautifully for the company. The problem that we've seen is guys have a fantastic fight on one night. It's one fight, one night. You might have the best performance of your life that one night, and you might not be able to show that moving forward against top tier competition in the UFC. So we're starting to kind of like see guys that are getting weeded out, and then we're starting to see the guys on the rise. The guy this weekend, Chris Duncan, that we were talking about at the top of the show, he's a Dana White Contender Series guy. He got knocked out in his Dana White debut, came back, got a knockout of his own. Now he's main eventing against Renato Moicano, and he is a dog. He's a guy that grew up. I say grew up, meaning in the UFC, got better in the UFC against high caliber competition, which is not easy to do. But he's one of these guys that are on the rise, and they're looking for more guys like that, exciting fighters that can prove themselves in the UFC.
Yeah, it's an interesting time for sure. And man, like this summer could be something special. If we get Khamzat Chimaev and Strickland in May, you get Ilia and Alex Pereira in June, you could potentially get Conor McGregor in July, and then if you get an Islam Makhachev fight in August, like
Mike, tell me who is Conor fighting?
I don't know. I think it's going to be Max Holloway, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I don't know what else makes more sense than that. Chael was saying on the show he thinks it's going to be Ian Gary versus Conor in an all Irish mentor like versus hero kind of showdown. I don't think that's going to be it. I feel like we're going to get Ian and Islam and Conor and Max, but this is not with. I would have reported it if I knew it was to be true.
You think it'll be Islam and Ian Gary?
I think so. I think that's the fight that makes sense. Morales is. I've been beating the Morales drum since he beat Sean Brady. I think that would be perfectly acceptable. But Ian's pushing real hard for it. I like the Ireland versus Dagestan kind of reheat angle, and Ian seems like he knows something about Islam Makhachev and how to beat him that no one else does. So let's see.
I'll tell you some insider info, and it doesn't really do much at this point because this is a couple of weeks ago. But when I was in Mexico City, my driver picked me up from the airport, the UFC driver, and we're talking, and he goes, this guy, Michael Morales, And I was like, yeah. He goes, he's fighting Islam. I go, why do you say that? He goes, he told us he was here. He was talking to the boss. And I go, okay, well, we'll see. And then since then, I remember there was a point where they showed Michael Morales, and I think he had a picture of Islam or something like that. And it seemed like that was the fight that was going to happen. And since then, it kind of sizzled out. So I don't know if they were in talks with him, and that's why he was saying it, and he took it as if it was set in stone. And then maybe they pivoted towards Ian Gary. Either way, I'm fine with either of those matchups.
Yeah. Please give me any of those. Give me Islam versus all the welterweights. I mean, if this guy can make a run and beat some of these dudes, like, it's a whole other conversation. But my Mount Rushmore, you mentioned Anderson Silva earlier. Like, Islam is 2 title defenses in this division away from getting a spot on there for me.
Is he above? Is he above Khabib in like the all-time list?
I think he's already above Khabib. I think he's now creeping on Demetrius and Anderson and GSP and Jones. So
I'm on the same with you. I mean, if he's already the more winning lightweight and he's a 2-weight champion, then he's got a better resume. Yeah, maybe not as dominant of a career as Khabib, but I've always put it like this, and I know we're about to go. I'm stretching this one for the people, but I've always looked at Khabib's career like this. I use it as a Mike Tyson type of analogy. Khabib was one of the most dominant fighters we have ever seen in terms of maybe we lost one round throughout his entire career,
Yeah.
dominant fashion, but he didn't fight long enough. 3 title defenses isn't enough. And you look at the guys that he did against, resume alone. If Mike Tyson would have retired in whatever the hell it was, 1980, and he was still 19-0 and he knocked everybody out in the first round, we would have said Mike Tyson was the best fighter who ever stepped foot inside of a ring. But as his career went on, he had off nights. He had the competition rose to the level of his, and they figured out the kinks in his armor. And things happened. And Mike Tyson was my favorite fighter of all time, but he was not the best boxer who ever lived. He would probably tell you that he would probably tell other people that he was not even in the top 5. Who knows? And that's how I look at Khabib. Dominant, not a long enough amount of time for me to put you at that height of level, unless you would have done it for 3 or 4 more title defenses or a couple more years of fighting that we could see that you're tried and true against the upcoming guys on the off nights and everything else that comes with fighting.
Yep, spot on. I agree. His resume and his legacy, I think, is set in stone, and it's hard, kind of untouchable, but you can't have a conversation of like the 5 greatest fighters ever and put him there. It wasn't enough fights. 13 UFC fights isn't enough. It just is what it is. Islam has 17, and as we know, we saw him get knocked out, and we're still talking about it in this way. And the more time you spend in there, the more shit can happen to you and the more chaos that can unfold, and your ability to navigate through that is pretty incredible. Islam going for 17 straight wins. Never thought I'd see the day Anderson's record would get broken, just because things can happen. You can get poked in the eye and it can be a no contest. You can have a judge rob you on a crazy decision. 2 million things that can happen, but
you can almost rip your toe off like John Jones and still win the fight. Like there's so many things that happen. So I'm glad we're on the same page about this, because I got a lot of people tell me that Khabib's number 1. I'm like, number 1? He's not even in my top 4 or 5. Love him, but he's in a separate category. Most dominant fighter ever. Probably in the top 10 or something. But
probably put him like 8 to 10 or something like that, which is fine. I mean, that's not a shaft. You just needed to fight more. It is what it is.
All right. But, I know I got completely off topic, like for the third
no, you're
time.
good.
I had to get that out.
This is what we're here for, Alan. We have the platform to do whatever we want. But I know you said you're working the desk this week. Who are you on there with?
I think it's me and Dino and Dan Helly. The Hellcat is going back to the play-by-play for the first time in many years. So I'm excited for the guy. He did a play-by-play years ago, and he does Dan Helly. If you've seen him, he does the power slap with us and everything. But he works basketball. He calls football. He calls all kinds of crap. And they called him, I'll fly in on a Friday and I'll call it. And his words, he didn't do well. And he's been heartbroken ever since then. So they finally given him another crack. So I'm rooting for my guy. It'll be a fun one. But yeah, me and Dino at the desk. So it'll be a lot of fun at the desk. Dean's always a good time.
Yeah, there we go. One of our favorites here on the Bonfire, Mr. Dean Thomas. So
Yeah,
appreciate you, Alan. That was a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff for the people to listen to. Curious about everyone else. Leave your rankings of these fights in the comments. Let us know. We'll see how they compare. All right, Alan, have a safe trip out there. Looking forward to your work as always on the desk. Keep killing it, man, and really appreciate you.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
All right, going to take a quick break and be right back to wrap things up. That does it for another edition of the Bonfire Podcast. 2 in the can this week. Been a busy one, but wanted to bring you guys some great content here, and it just kind of lined up this way. I definitely wasn't planning 2 shows, but sometimes you put out the feelers to the guests. Sometimes you get double responses, and you got to make it work, and I think these would be 2 great ones this week. So hope this has helped fill up some time for you guys. Of course, UFC Fight Night 272 Saturday. We'll have the coverage on MMA Junkie. We have Cold Coffee, Ken Hathaway down there in Las Vegas, giving us the coverage as always. And then next week, UFC 327, probably the card of the year. We're going to have Jiri Prochazka and Carlos Ulberg fighting for that vacant belt as discussed, and just very curious to see if that event delivers, because truly a lot of great matchups there. We will have coverage Nolan King and Danny Segura down there in Miami for MMA Junkie. I will certainly have a preview show on this channel, maybe a long-awaited return of a certain guest. We shall see how things shake out here in the next few days, but going to bring you guys something regardless of who the guest is. We need to preview this banger of a card for UFC 327. Before I get out here, I want to thank my man Ash for helping with all the visuals on this. He's done a great job kind of reworking the thumbnails and adding a little new design on the logo and all that stuff. So appreciate his creativity and his work being a great help during this kind of transition phase, given what happened a few months ago with our late producer, Alan Jouban, who I miss and love very dearly. So that does it for this week. Until next time, I will see you all back here at the Bonfire.